Alrighty, so I've got a big list of vehicles there, and we'll get onto this picture in a while. But basically, I want to make this video about sedan camping. Not so much car camping, but it will be on car camping, but I want to focus more on sedan camping because I believe sedan camping has a aspect to it that is far better, or maybe far better. And the aspect is based on being super stealth, far more stealth than you would otherwise be if you were in an RV. Now, some people are in cargo vans, they're fairly stealth until they do that stupid move that everybody tells them don't do it, but they then say, oh, I want to upgrade this van, and they put in those damn roof ventilation vents, which are a dead giveaway that someone's in the van. Now, if you're in an RV or you're in a cargo van with, you know, roof ventilation hatches, these sort of things, you know, like the little ones they have the fantastic fan mounted under, these sort of things, it's a bit more of a dead giveaway that you're in the vehicle instead of being in a solid-sided cargo van with no windows and, you know, basically not having any ventilation hatches. It's sort of also a bit hard just with a lot of vehicles that have a lot of windows. But more particularly a minivan like mine, and I am regretting now not getting the tinted windows on the side, because it's sort of, when you've got to go and put up, you know, like cardboard or something up against the side of it, it's all just too obvious that maybe there's something going on in the back of that minivan and it's not actually a normal passenger vehicle, you know, and you might face this same stuff with a wagon. But the real kicker is that while people will expect you to sleep in a station wagon or a cargo van with ventilation hatches on the top, or a minivan with all the windows blocked up, they really are never going to expect you to be sleeping in a sedan. Now, I'm 6'2", and I'm not talking about sleeping on the back seat. I've worked out a few other bits and bobs. There'll be a part 2 to this video where I have actually pulled part of a sedan apart to prove my exact point. Don't worry, it was going to the wreckers anyway. What I have here on this list, and a bit on here as well, is, well, basically, some of your station wagons and minivans are alright if you don't have to fold down the front seat, but it often makes it a lot better to sleep in a vehicle if you have the ability to fold the front seat down. Now, with a sedan, you're almost going to have to fold the front seat down unless you're like below, you know, 5'5" or something like that, where you can just actually fold the back seats down and then, you know, you'll have enough room, and I'll show you how you'll have enough room if you're short. But this idea sort of come to me when I was moving a bit of timber. I know it wasn't timber. It was another thing you'll see, the solar hot water system. And I got some pipe, and it was long enough. And I was in the G6. And, yeah, here's what your average sedan is like with your 60-40 split rear seats. And some of them just have a solid one that drops down. I've seen in a couple of Hondas and stuff. So there's your vehicle. There's your dash. You have your airbag in there or whatever. And you'll notice your footwell goes in, and it actually comes up to where basically your back of your wheel well is there, or more or less the firewall sort of thing. But really speaking, it's actually the back of your front wheel well. And there's your seat. Now with these, and this is how I done it with the G6, I got the back part here, and she folded down like that. And I could stick this stuff, and this is your trunk slash boot, whatever you want to call it, And I could stick the stuff in here right through there. And it wasn't a problem. It wasn't a problem. What you can often do if you're smart cookies, you go right up through onto the center console with it. Having said that, there's some vehicles you'll realise it's not a very big gap at all that they allow there. Some of them only have a tiny little bit where you have an armrest that folds down in the middle seat, in the centre seat, and you've got this little tiny hatch, like you can have the armrest that sits in the middle on the back seat, and then you can lift that armrest up, push it back into the seat, and you can have a third person sit in the middle in the back seat. And they've got like a little flap behind that which allows you to get through into the trunk. But others, your seat folds down completely like this. But see, that might not be long enough for you. You might say, well, you know, and if you're 5'5" or something, you can bloody well fit in there like that. Having said that, it might not, yeah, it all depends, because some of them, just the way they've done inside the trunk, you don't have the full width of the, you know, the sides of the seats completely. It's like it's all almost funnels inside the trunk with some of them. But you may be all right like that, and you say, what do you mean all right? Well, what you do is you do a little plywood frame with a few feet on it that are, you know, and hey, you can keep that in the back. See, the biggest beauty of being in a sedan is nobody expects that you've got your legs in the blimmin' trunk. Really, they don't expect it. So if you can block the windows up, put normal reflectix on the windscreen and all that, you can be in there and they'll never know. Only because it's the last thing you would expect someone to do. Some people try to sleep side as you don't want to. It's just ridiculous. You're going to sleep with your legs bent all night. This way, if you're short enough, 5'5" or something, you'll fit full length without a problem. Now, there's another aspect to this. Wouldn't it be nice if we could have a shower and everything? Well, I've worked out if you're inside a vehicle, there's your front seats, you can have your back seat folded down, and this side, like in Australia we're right-hand drive, so this won't make sense to you, but you could just swap it around if you're in the US. You could have this side as your bed. Now this is just taking the roof off the vehicle. You can have this side as your bed, and maybe go right through into the trunk. And you have your driver's seat, and then this side here, that's where you put your porta potty. Yeah. Now, what do you have on the roof here? Roof racks. So you have the bullshit set up for your roof racks, and you have a solar hot water system on there, and somewhere, maybe, you know, who knows where, well, you can shove it up the top too. You can have a solid shower curtain type setup that you can have on a little loop frame. Some of you might remember a particular, it's almost like a basketball ring type thing with your frame, with your curtain rings that all go on the top of it, and you can wind it around. And I have considered having one even on the bottom, but I don't know how exactly that would go, except that it would help windproof it if you had one in the bottom with a bit of weight on your curtain. And the thing is, having sewing machines and all that, I can make one out of polyester. I can have a double layer. I can have it however the hell I want, because I can make it from scratch. But you could have that coming off the side of your roof rack and have a shower standing beside your car. You don't exactly want to do this in the parking lot, but if you find a grassed area down by the beach or out on the side of some side road somewhere, whatever, some back road, you know, not like a footpath one, we're talking one where it's just out next to farms or something, you know, you could probably not have a problem. I know of an exact spot even in the state capital where I can go out to a beach area that's sort of further out, and they're only really just launch boats from there, but they've got a big grassed area, and it's like an overflow to car park, and you could just go out there and bingo, there's a lot of these a lot of it is actual farmland in this area. That's more for vegetable growing area, but it's all irrigated. But anyway, that'd give you your toilet, your shower, or should I say your toilet, your shower, and your bed in a sedan. Now, you often won't fit there. So at 6'2", how do I fit? Well, with this sedan, I actually had to rip this out. I just unbolted it and turfed it out on the ground. But it can get a little bit sticky due to roadworthy bullshit and not modifying seats. And you know, if you take the seat out, and if you've got a real arsehole cop, especially one who likes busting hoons and that, they know that if you've got any sort of modification without the proper engineer's certificate, as we have in this state, and it's probably different in other states, they can fuck you up for it. Having said that, I've heard of people with passenger vans who ripped all the seats out the back and they got it registered with the seats ripped out, and so long as they keep the seats ripped out, they're fine. With the Trajet, it doesn't matter because they've got removable seats in them, and they deliberately, you can just lift the whole damn seat out, like your old Lumina APV of the early 90s, Chev Lumina APV, and there's another van I saw that does the exact same thing. Now, the other thing you might want to have is a fold flat front seat, and that's where this list comes in. So we have quite a lot of these that we might as well look at this guy's thing first. This guy sort of really got into it, so I'll read out what it says here because you're going to have trouble seeing it. Honda's Fit and HRV models I've tested all allow front seat to fold flush with the back seat if you lift the rear seat. Match with front seats back with headrest removed and push them down together. So you've got a sort of, bit of a method. A lot of these, there is a bit of a method to it. So the front seat will fold flush with the back seat if you lift the rear seat, because they have what they have in Hondas they call magic seats. So not only can you fold the back part down, you can actually fold the bottom part up. I'm not joking. And you got like this big steel pipe hoop thing that goes in there. And yeah, and that'll just sort of swing away, and it's so you can actually put bicycles straight in the back of the vehicle. That's the idea. But never mind what their idea was, I'm talking about our idea. So I think that's what it's saying. You've got to lift the back seat and then bring down the front seat and the back seat and push them down together. Most fits, which we know the Honda Fit is the Honda Jazz in Australia, if you can't work out what that means. It's a sort of thing that occurs where the marketing doesn't work right, but often somebody else has stole the name Jazz for another vehicle in the States. Chev might have a Jazz or some bullshit, so then they've got to change the name. Honda's got to change the name when they bring it to the other country that's already got a similar name, or it might be just a marketing thing. Most fits allow this easily, as do some Accords, which are a bloody good vehicle, and you get a lot of low mile ones. For some reason, a hell of a lot of them are low mile in my country or in my state, and they're bloody cheap for something that is not a Toyota, but it's a Honda. But just don't touch those goddamn Odysseys from the early 2000s, because they have the worst Japanese transmission ever built in the bastards. Yeah, absolute shit buckets, the automatics in those. They ended up doing 5 recalls and still had problems. And a lot of these things are blowing transmissions every 6 or 9 months from new. That you don't want a fucking Odyssey. Although, you know, they're available to Canada. They're just you're stepping into a transmission nightmare if you go for the early 2000s models. I don't know if they fixed the problem or not. You'd hope so after damn near 15, 20 years. Honda doesn't make a solution anymore, but the Prius, and the Prius is well known to do that sort of stuff, and the Scion XB, which I think is a little thing a bit like a Nissan Cube from what I've seen. It's like their answer to the Nissan Cube. Blah, blah, blah. Our favourite solution was the Odyssey, but we don't need a minivan anymore. fuck the Odyssey. More trouble than they're worth. They do look like a nice van. They often ain't very tall. Like, they're not tall like the Trajet and a lot of these other, like your Chryslers, your Dodge Caravan. They're not tall like that. They're sort of a bit shorter. But like I said, the transmissions are a fucking nightmare in those things. And you know, you might be better if you had a newer one, but you really want to do your research, because the ones from the early 2000s were fucking worst transmissions ever made in Japan. Nissan Sentra, which I'm not exactly sure what that is. It might be a 4x4, but I'll get to the other list in a minute. Seats also fold flat without a struggle, while the Altima, there's another one that's easily confused with the Altima. While the Altima and Rogue come very close to flush with some effort. Mazda 5 is not available in Australia. It's like well, it's basically like a minivan attempt, but it's more like a Primacy, Mazda Primacy, which we had for a little while here, and it was a bit of a flop in Australia, so they don't have it, but in the States it must have been good enough, so they now have it as the Mazda 5, as the Dodge Caliber and Dodge Journey. And the Dodge Journey is a 4x4 with the most stupid battery placement you've ever found in a vehicle, let me tell you. You got to go look up on YouTube if you want to jumpstart the bastards. It's that fucking hard. But what do you expect from a fucking Dodge? Anyway, I think the Calibers are, I don't know. That might be a smaller 4x4. Lexus i300 Sport Crosses front seats fold flat like the Matrix, like the Toyota Matrix, which we didn't have in Australia, or technically it's a Toyota Corolla Matrix, rebadges the Pontiac Vibe. I haven't found one to test yet. As a general rule, leather, ones with leather seats, oh there you go, ones with leather seats, power passenger seats, won't fold all the way down. The only exceptions I've found are Accords. Oh, so some of them have the leather seats that do fold down. Couldn't find a Hyundai Subaru Germ Ford that complied. Yeah, well, Trajet's fantastic. All its seats will fold down. I'm not too certain about the front seats, but let me tell you, all the other seats do, because I've done it. I've read a few trucks and SUVs that will. Can't find a European car with a front seat that will fold flat, because you can't even remove the damn headrest half the time. So, what I found in my little research is there's I think somewhere else that said you'll find a lot of off-roaders / soft roaders, with, like your little toy four-wheel drives that often enough aren't even four-wheel drive, or they're all-wheel drive, which means that either the front or the back wheels only kick in when the other one starts slipping. They're not like diff-locked blooming four-wheel drive, like a bloody Land Cruiser or something like that. They're more the ones that are the all-wheel drive that only have the other drive kick in once the main drive slips, or the soft rotors, which are all bloody two-wheel drives. They're just, like the toy four-wheel drives, basically. That you look four-wheel drivey, but you really wouldn't want to be taking them out in heavy country in hard situations, because you might not be as good as you would with a Land Cruiser or something like that. So a lot of Nissan 4x4s have the front seats fold forward, as well as the Dodge Journey. The VW Tiguan, by the way, I think it's that one that you don't want to drive through the bigger one anyway has got the shit block. If you drive through water, it cracks the fucking engine block. Jeep Patriot, Jeep Compass, Jeep Cherokee, KL and KK model, Dodge Nitro, I know that for sure. That's like a little toy four-wheel drive. That's like a soft rotor, because I see them occasionally. Yeah, that's most of your four-wheel drives. Now, you've got a couple that are more or less minivans here, being the Honda Odyssey and the Kia Rondo, which it won't be in the base model, but it'll be in the SLI or the PT, which are the slightly better models. Of course, you know, there's other ones that I've mentioned previously that I mentioned again for the purpose of this video that are Pontiac Vibe, Toyota Matrix, or technically Toyota Corolla Matrix, both in the States, and one that's in the States and here, which is the PT Cruiser, that's a Chrysler from the early 2000s, and in fact I've got it wrong. They actually had them right up till, oh shit, I think it was like 2009. It might even be later. It might have been 2012 or something in the States. It was longer than I expected, actually. But yeah. So your Kia Rondo is essentially, it's a lot like the Premacy or the Mazda MPV type thing. It's not a minivan, but it's like a very tall station wagon. You know, it's like, just imagine a Honda Odyssey that's shorter and you're there. It's not the full height minivan that you have with a Hyundai iMax and Hyundai Trajet. You know, your other ones with your Dodge Caravan, your Chrysler Voyager, as we call it over here. You might know other one, Town and Country. I forget this. I think it's Chrysler Town and Country. None of those sort of taller ones. It's one of those ones that it's a bit like a Odyssey that's a bit shorter type thing. That's sort of more how your Kia Rondo is. They're actually fairly rare type of vehicle. And I'm not necessarily saying you want to buy a frickin' Kia. Kias are one of these ones where they're a little bit like Chryslers. You got some good models that are here and there, but you got to be very careful because there's a lot of shit models as well that just end up being nightmares. And some years are good, and some years are just fucking nightmares. And some engine types are good, and some engine types are real fucking lemons, you know. So you want to take note of that, but there's very few of them even around, so you'll probably have trouble even bloody finding them, to be honest. I see them on occasion, but only because I got my eye open for those sorts of different vehicles that are possibly livable. So apparently the Nissan Tiida, which was a chronic sales flop in this country, and you can get them dirt cheap because they built far more than they could sell. Apparently the hatch only, you can fold all seats flat in that. And the Nissan Cube, which is a hell of a lot like the Skian XB, although we rarely see any Skians in this country. Though we got a hell of a lot of imported Cubes, and even Cube 2, and I think there's even a Cube 3 that we've bought from Japan that have got the proper plates on them that are, you know, registered import vehicle type thing, you know, Australian approved, which they tend to do with sort of grey import market vehicles that they bring a lot of over, and you'll actually see it's like a little pink plate underneath the hood that we have. And of course there's your Honda Jazz, Honda Fit. You would be stunned at the low miles and the low price of those things. They're only a small vehicle. You got a 1.3 and a 1.5 litre. There is a manual and an automatic. If you can handle driving manuals, you'll notice they're about $1,500 to $2,000 cheaper. They're stunningly cheaper. But yeah, in a second I'll show you that stuff, how they fold them, because I've got actual photos of that. And there's the Lexus IS300 sports wagon. There's also IS200 sports wagon. Never bought those to Australia. Yes, the Honda HR-V. I know I've already just gone over that as a four-wheel drive. That is basically like a Honda CR-V two-door. They're all wagons and they're all two doors. But the dead giveaway is you got this bizarre little spoiler that's on the roof just in front of the top of the tailgate, and it looks sort of odd. And I've also got a funny feeling, I'm not too sure, but I've got a sneaking feeling that they're all manuals. I'm not too sure. You might want to look into that. You might want to see if you can find some, but I've got a bad feeling they might all be manuals. Yeah, Toyota Prius, Toyota Skian, and Honda Accord. And as I said, Honda Accords, you know, for some reason you just get Honda Accords, low mileage, and the Honda Jazz /Fit, low mileage, and there's sort of two models. There's an early 2000s one, and then I think they change about 05 or 06 or something, and that model looks a lot more like the newer ones. I will say something about the Honda Fit and the Honda Jazz. Don't ever completely disconnect the battery. Now, if your battery goes flat, try to get it on a charger as soon as you can, especially if you've got a solar system. Don't let the battery, like, if it's going to go flat, it'll go flat. There's not much you can do about it, but don't deliberately take the battery out completely as you put the new battery in. Try to use a 9-volt bloomin' square battery or just some little mesh up, maybe two of those 6-volt LAN battery, maybe jumper leads off another little alligator clips, just to keep power running, because they've got this arsehole feature with a bit of software or settings in the transmission, and it'll bloody lose them if you completely take the battery out. Be aware of that when you change batteries with those things. And I don't know if it's something that it can relearn, but I think it keeps changing gears badly, and you've got to actually pay a few $100s at the dealership to get them to fucking do it right. Not great, not good at all. Yeah. So anyway, I'll go and spin through here and find in my little screenshot that there is how you deal with a Honda Jazz, Honda Fit. Now, that's your tail lights. The rim you can... Now, let's get a bigger screen here. Here we go. The rim you can see there is where your tailgate closes. That's your back part. Now, some of these you might have a little plastic bit of shit that goes over like a parcel carrier thing. There's your seats folded down, and there's your front one folded back. You still will need bits of plywood that will go in with little feet in the right positions with clips that attach if you've got two bits or something like that to make it up. Because by the time you get the length there, you're probably going to have two bits width-wise in your boot/trunk. You might, want to keep that little piece that goes in there for your own purposes to hide the fact of all the shit you got in the back. And if you're going to be sleeping with your feet under there, does it really matter if there's a cover there? Probably not, And I'll bring up the other one. I don't think it's a great deal better. Here we go. Here we go. Well, there's proof right there, I think. That is skis. Snow skis. Yeah. Yeah, snow skis. So there you go. So anyway, hopefully you can fold the front seat flat. You may not be able to. Having said that, I have some ideas to keep it even more or less cop-proof, even if you have to remove the full back seat and, different bits and bobs and whatnot. I don't think there's anything wrong if you have a bit of plywood there that goes from the back to the front permanently, but have your... You can get these mattresses, I get them at about US $38 each, and I don't get them, but I can get them at all places of a hardware chain. And they're sort of like almost like made to be used for camping. They're only like 4 inches thick, but they're rolled up, and they're made to be rolled up. And if you've got 2 of those, that's 8 inches of sponge. Yeah, and what's that work out? 76, is it? Yeah, 76 US dollars for 2 of those, and you'd be floating on 8 inches of sponge. I'll go on a bit about how to fit more center consoles why and how centre consoles are there, removing centre consoles, the benefits of a front-wheel drive vehicle over a rear-wheel drive vehicle, and some of the aspects of dealing with wheel wells and all that sort of stuff in the second part, along with showing you the actual vehicle, that in which case I'll sort of prove that you can do this, and talk about how your hips are going to fit through the gap in the back that goes through into the back and all of that sort of stuff. You know, I'll go on in the second video on all of that, and believe it or not, I've made the second video first and this video last. But anyway, that gives you a bit of an idea. But there's ways and means, and it's a great benefit if you can get that front seat to fold down, and I mean a huge benefit. And it's also a good benefit if you've got column shift and you've got front wheel drive as well. But anyway, I'll be touching on that in future. But I always feel that like a sedan is like, it's a great option. It's a brilliant option, because it's the last thing that people think, that you're actually sleeping with your legs inside the trunk. No one's going to suspect this. If you're tall like me, you're going to have to worry about that front seat being folded down. If you're short, you're not. One last point, with this plywood, you can actually, what I was saying about rolling up your mattresses and leaving the mattresses in the back, there's a reason for that. Because if a cop pulls you up randomly, or you go through one of those random breath tests, it looks like you're just carrying a bit of wood from the hardware store if you can make the feet hide by placing them in the right positions. And if you use wood putty or cream-coloured silicone over the screws that go into the feet that are underneath, and it will just look from the driver's side, because that putty or that silicone is the same colour as the raw wood, it will look like you are coming back from the hardware store carrying a piece of plywood. Ha ha! Yeah. I thought everything. Yeah. So anyway, see you in part 2.